What's up, everybody? Welcome back to Beyond the Gray Media. This is Josh here, checking in on you out there in YouTube land. YouTube, I'm checking in on you quickly because, like a lot of you, it is damn cold outside. It's like 20 some degrees out here, and I just got done watching this film, Men Behind the Sun, for the second time. So I'm going to quickly give you my thoughts on it. It's going to be a little contradicting, because I'm not trying to champion this film, and I'm also trying to say you shouldn't watch it or you shouldn't own it. I'm a little bit of a mixed bag when it comes to films like this. This is one that you can't really describe on YouTube without getting into some sort of trouble. I do not want to get demonetized, so I'll probably be relatively vague when I'm describing what happens. And I'm going to try to do it all in one take because you can't not talk about this film after watching it. It is so heavy. It's so cold. Like, it's fitting. It's so bleak. It's like cold steel. It's just painful to get through. The film opens with this quote, "Friendship is friendship. History is history." Men Behind the Sun from 1988. Get your popcorn handy. Strap in because we're going to try to go relatively deep here. Men Behind the Sun. It starts at the original site and ruins of the Manchu 731 in Harbin, China, and we're introduced to a site devoid of any life. What we're seeing in the beginning is just the rubble and the ruins and the memories of a Japanese subunit that existed prior to WW2, okay? Unit 731, they specialized in biological bacterial weapons. The facilities were at the time state-of-the-art and guarded heavily by a high-tension fence. Inside was an animal farm, crematorium, jail, pathology laboratory, experimental projects, labs, the commander's headquarters, right? It was kind of a one-stop shop for prisoners and the like. The Japanese are really going to try to use these weapons to, it was kind of like their last hope, if you will. So the film picks up as a couple of, young Japanese men are drafted and sent to the Kwangtung Army, sent in to serve at Unit 731. I'm going to screw up a bunch of the names, but rewatching this film, I can't help but notice and compare the way that this film is shot and the look of it. It reminds me a lot of Necromantic. Obviously, these are kind of worlds apart in a way, like the subject matter and what they're talking about, but the grain in this film, this 4K restoration, mind you, it's on par. It looks a lot like Necromantic. And the basic premise of this film is the Japanese army, they're trying to utilize these weapons to help aid their victories, and they're counting on the experiments of this Unit 731 to help them succeed. And we follow a bunch of drafted gentlemen through the barracks, and they begin to explore the facilities, and it's just, it's a one-stop shop of gore, horror, grief. If you've got... This film is a lot, dude. This film is a lot. The film takes about 25 minutes before we're even introduced to the first death. Technically, I guess there is one before that 25 minutes, but the first recorded death is no picnic. It sets the tone, and it is cold as ice. If you've seen this film, you know which one I'm talking about. I'm not going to describe it, but it's brutal to hear, and luckily most of it is covered by a swaddling cloth. As these boys, these young draftees, they start their training, they're kind of introduced to more of the facilities, if you will. They quickly learn of the hellish prisoner camps and the torturous experiments taking place at Unit 731. The film is shot in various segments, I guess, where, they kind of coincide with the experiments that are happening at the time. And there's no warning. There's no like, hey, we're going to do this now. It's just you're kind of watching this historical kind of documentary, I guess. And then all of a sudden, people are going to be tortured, maimed, executed. It's going to get brutal. And it does. And it's pretty damn quick. It's not pleasing. It's really hard to sit through some of this stuff. For the record, it's shocking, dude. It's just gross. It's vile. It makes you feel bad. There's a frostbite examination that stuck with me from the first time I watched it that I always think about. That's really hard to watch, but it's also kind of fascinating because you don't usually see things like this. And if this was actually happening, like, this is pretty twisted stuff. So, being bound to a beam, and then having your hands covered in ice water, frozen, whacked, right? Frozen again till they're black, till all the blood stops, and then the skin is just ripped off down to the bone. It is brutal. It's gory. It's intense, man. It's like, what the hell? This is something you would see out of a Faces of Death video. Like, it's absolutely brutal. It's just I mean, and then next door, right, the temperatures are then quickly dropped to negative 196 degrees for kind of a flash freeze, if you will, and then you get your fingers knocked off. Man, it's just torturous to go through that again. But it's very interesting. I'm not going to come on here and lie and say that it's not super interesting. It's something that I didn't know even existed. I would not think of trying to use frostbite as a form of torture. It would feel very welcome in something like Faces of Death. Another experiment, warns the risks of contamination as the 15 different prisoners are injected with this substance with devastating it seems like it's in bad taste to kind of describe some of this stuff based on what the world has gone through. And so it's a lot. The methodology of the torture in this film, it's a lot. For most people, this is going to be an extremely triggering film. It's going to be disgusting, probably. The horrors of war, right? After a while, it just becomes like, which experiment is going to stick with you the most? Which is the one that you're going to remember when the lights go out and you can't get it out of your head? It's one of those kind of films. There's not a lot of there's no jump scares, okay? There's none. It's just room to room, experiment to experiment, and which one is going to get under your skin the most. Yeah. None of it's pleasant. None of it's charming. There's no comedic relief. There is a little bit of camaraderie, I guess, between some of the young guys and a mute kid and a baseball, I guess. But most of the imagery in this film looks like it's ripped right out of a CD booklet from a Cannibal Corpse cover. Bodies stacked on bodies that are hacked and slashed, hacked up for barbecue, if you will, something like Mortician. Tormented, cadavers dismembered. For me, though, the Animal Farm stuff, it's so far from cool, I don't even really want to describe it too much. I don't know if any of those experiments are real, but I never want to see that again. I just don't. It's mean. It's disturbing. It's a piece of history that's vile, and it's just unrelenting when you're watching it. I like to make it clear, that while I am for owning this film, it's one disgustingly brutal hour and 45 minutes, and I stand by owning banned films, censored films, things that you can't get in the US, things that have never been released. I'm a big fan of owning things like that because someone out there, somebody wants that kind of media, and, there's a big difference from wanting to have that so that the curiosity is kind of itched, if you will, and then also co-signing on, oh, this is okay, because there are some scenes that are just vile and banned for a reason where you're like, oh my God. I have to mentally kind of take a little bit of a break in there's one major spot in this film where I'm like, that's not okay, dude. Come on. Really? And I guess I check out of my body for a minute, right? And then I guess I come back. The problem that I have, though, is the horror and the violence in this film is cold, it's blunt, and it's with no music. So you don't even you just get the cold lotion. There's no foreplay, there's no lube, there's nothing. It's just hyper realism through the lens of a documentary as it goes scene to scene, room to room, execution style with no remorse, no regret, no sympathy for the viewer, right? And I guess all of the special effects, they are extremely gruesome because they're using real cadavers. From everything that I've read, they're using actual organs, they're doing actual autopsies on real people. So it's in bad taste, and it's not for everyone. That's just, most people are not going to like that. It's a different level of gore when you're using cadavers and real humans, right? It's not like it's, I've seen a lot of German expression things where they're using pigs and, they're, anyway. But the scene that I can't co-sign is that animal cruelty in this film. It lives rent-free in my head. You can't be cruel just for the sake of making a film. I can't get behind that. As much as I think that this is a pretty intense piece of history, it's a lot, dude. One of the most shocking things I've ever seen. I really fucking hate it, actually. I wish I did not have to watch that again. And I've read interviews where apparently there's honey and theater blood that are used on this animal to kind of create effect, but it's just disturbing. It's disgusting. It kind of pissed me off when I was watching it. And and I really enjoy Marion Dora, or whatever alias he has to use all the time to kind of keep his identity safe, because he uses real animals in his films. But when I'm watching one of his films and I love them, you have to go down a deep and dark place, and you're taking a ride. So when I sit down to one of these, it does take a little bit, it takes a piece of you for sure. And I don't always want to do that. And unfortunately, some of these scenes in this film are a lot. So who is this film for? Who is going to enjoy this movie? Probably no one. I mean, I don't even know, dude. I really don't. I don't know who out there is going to enjoy a film like this. It's for those who are willing to seek out extreme films and let their curiosity run wild. Those are really the only people that are going to like something like this. If you've heard about the lore, you've heard about the legend, you know the reputation, and you have that, curiosity to want to know what it's all about, it's 100% warranted. I'll tell you that. Okay? All of those rumors and all of that reputation, 100% warranted. Is it the worst thing you're ever going to see? Maybe. For a lot of people, yeah. They'll probably never forget watching this film, 100%. But I do think this is kind of like a gateway horror film for gorehounds. This is kind of like The Evil Dead for splatter and gore folks that are into the Guinea Pig series or August Underground or any of that stuff that Unearthed puts out. The really extreme gore and, just getting hacked up, and we're not talking vomit and all that kind of stuff. That's a whole different subgenre that I'm not a big fan of. I got like one of them. It's just not for me. But Men Behind the Sun it takes a piece of you, man. I own it, and I've wanted to have it for a while. This is put out by Massacre Video, and this is a 4K film restoration, okay? And it's the 35mm camera negative. There's a lot of grain in the film, and it has, for a long time it didn't have American subtitles or American language, so it was just in, I guess it's in Japanese, I'm not sure, or in Mandarin probably. Japanese and Mandarin, right? So now there's an uncompressed, like a dub, and the dub isn't that bad when you're watching it. Like, you forget pretty quickly that it's dubbed. And then there's also subtitles in English, so they don't always line up because, they'll be saying something like bacterial biology, like it's close. It's a lot. It's a lot. Men Behind the Sun, 1988. It could be seen as history, I guess, but I think it's just an exploitation film, really. Shocking people for the sake of shock. It's in bad taste, a lot of it. It's going to leave you feeling pretty gross, for sure. The special features, I watched, there's an interview with the director. It's like 22 minutes. There's another interview on YouTube that has the full interview, I guess the rest of it. And then there's like a 4-minute photo gallery in case you wanted to see that gore slowed down, right? I'm one of those people, right? That's fine. And then it's got some trailers from Massacre Video. And these things are hard to import. I think these are usually 35 or 40 bucks. So if this is something that's going to tickle your buyer bone, know what you're getting into, right? Know you're getting into a cadaver film with a ton of gore. And it's not all the time, though. There is like a story and a subplot, right? Because if this all actually happened, then yeah, it's through the lens of a documentary. But it's a lot. So, viewer beware, you're in for a scare. Thanks for being here. Want to see more from me? You already know what to do. I just want to check with you quickly. My toes are frozen. Love you.